Hey guys, it's Ken from Death Venom Studios. I got a resto build for you guys today. I'm taking an old Dell, and we're going to clean it, put it back together. We're going to use it as a pfSense router. I'm calling it Project RustyStinger because it's old and it's going to blow away any router you buy at your big box store. Whether it be a Cisco, a Netgear, and a Zeus, it's going to blow it away, guys. Start off, this is our Intel Core 2 Duo. Holding it upside down, there you go. Intel Core 2 Duo. This is a 2.33 gigahertz dual core. Our 8 gigabyte jump drive here, just like I had said, laying around, just used it. Just have a disk here, this has pfSense on it. This is our motherboard with the Intel chipset. 4 DIMM slots, so it could take theoretically up to 8 gigs is what this motherboard supports. Maybe I'll switch to the 64-bit. I don't think so, but you know, maybe in the future. It says 1 gigabit Ethernet port on it built in. Has a numerous amounts of USB 2.0 slots. It does have onboard video, so I'll be using that for to set it up for display. It only has one PCI Express slot, but we're going to be using a dual card, so that should be fine. And we'll be using the onboard, so 2 PCIs, which can be running gigabit Ethernet. They're pretty much useless. This little doohickey here is just come out of the front of the case. It's got a couple of USB ports on it, as well as your audio. It also has a spot for a temperature sensor. Right there, it's got a temperature sensor spot. In the machine, without this plugged in, the machine thinks that there's a problem and it'll freak out on you a little bit, even though there's no sensor in that spot. So here we go with our 3 gigs of Samsung DDR2, 5500 megs. This is a stock cooler. Now guys, I washed in the dishwasher a lot of these parts, including this. I would not recommend washing in the dishwasher the aluminum heatsink. If I did it over again, I would not, because it gets all these little crusties and corrosions on it, and look, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's really bad right there. I don't know. This machine is not going to be under load, and it is going to have I'm going to put something in the front screen to protect it from dust. Alright, this is a SABA SYBA 2-port Ethernet PCI card. It's running the Realtek RTL 8111s. Actually has 2 of them on there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it actually has 2 of the chips on there. Both gigabit. So you can see I wrote on it because I was playing around with this earlier and I got it set up a little bit. This is our little doohickey that came with the power supply. Yeah, it's modular, guys. So nice. This is our, I don't know, what do you think that is? Floppy ribbon cable? Nope. This is actually for a little USB dealio here for the front. Then we just have the back plane here. This little pops out cover. Our power supply, if I remember correctly, this is a 250 watt power supply. I blew it out real good. I didn't take it apart because I didn't think it really needed it because it didn't look too bad. Should be plenty, because we're not even, once we install the OS, we're going to remove the CD-ROM, and there's no hard drive in it. So then I washed all the little plastics for the cowling, for the fan. I blew the fan out real good and I wiped it down. I did not wash it because that would be disastrous, as it has moving parts. And then the case I did wash, which turned out real nice. I like using this as from Arctic Cleaner. It's from Arctic Silver or whatever it's called. Yeah, Arctic Silver. Came with this and the cleaner, which I like to use. I hope this is enough thermal paste. I know I don't use much, guys. Some guys use a little bit more than I do. I don't use a lot, but It's almost empty, as you can see. So hopefully we have enough of that. And then this is just a CD-ROM. This is actually not the CD-ROM or the DVD-ROM that came with the machine. I pulled this out of an old Lenovo just because, I don't know, I just like it. Alright guys, let's get this build back together. First thing is this little I/O shield. It's made out of a cloth material. It's kind of weird. Then we're going to have to put in the power connector. You can see that the 4-pin wires for the 4-pin, they go under the motherboard. So we'll go ahead and put that in first. Then once that's in, we can go ahead and pop the motherboard in. You'll see it gets caught on the I/O shield there. I've had to fiddle with it for a minute to get it to go through. I have a few machines that I want to do this build with, these retro type builds. So if you guys are interested in seeing those, just hit me down in the comments saying that you want me to do it, and I'll do it. And like this, there are 3 Lenovos that I have. 2 of them are Core 2 Duos, 1.8 gigahertz, and then one of them's same exact CPU that's in this, which is the Core 2 Duo 2.33 gigahertz CPU. So if you guys like that, like me to do those, I'll do them. I just put in the retaining bracket for the heatsink. It has screws that go right through the motherboard and then attached to the bottom of the case. And now I'm gonna go ahead and put the other screws in. And when I do those other builds with the Lenovos, I am going to give one of those away to a YouTube subscriber. I really want to build this channel. I really like doing this, so that's something that I want to do to help build the channel. So if you guys are interested in that, like I said, subscribe and like, and I'll do that build and I'll give one away. I'm putting in now the rear I/O shield. I believe this was removable because if you look at the back, it looks like there could have been a version that lets you have a full PCI instead of card in there, instead of having like the half height. You could have had the full length with a riser card. I had a little bit of difficulty getting it to stay in there because I guess the previous owner pulled it out and straightened out the little brackets on the back that actually holds it in. But once you put the lid on the case, it should hold it down just fine. So that shouldn't be a problem. So just continuing on, popping in some more screws. I have a habit of losing screws, but luckily there's not a whole lot on this machine, so I don't think I really lost, but I think I lost one actually. So go ahead and hook up the 4-pin power supply. Make sure that the rest of the cables are out of the way. Alright, so now we're going to start getting the fan and the shroud. In hindsight, I would have put the fan shroud in first before the motherboard because it would have made it a little bit easier. However, I got it in without any problems. Now this fan has little rubber feet on it that hook it to the bracket here, and having a little difficulty with it, but it goes in. This helps isolate noise and vibrations. Now you'll see in a second here, I actually dropped the fan, or my friend that was helping me clean the fans out dropped it and broke it in 2 spots. I had to glue it right there at those spots to hold the fan together. Fan worked fine. It didn't actually break anything inside the motor, and it's blowing fine, and it's very quiet. So that wasn't an issue, thankfully. So now I'm going to go ahead and pop this fan in. It actually snaps into place. You have to put the one side in first, the side closest to the CD-ROM tray, and then the other side pops right in. Go ahead and hook up the header so we don't forget about it later. Alright, so next we're going to go ahead and put the front I/O panel in. It's got a couple of USB ports as well as the audio ports, and then the power button. I would have liked to have left this out of the case, but it has the power button, and the BIOS tends to freak out if it's not plugged in, saying that there's no heat sensor, even though the spot for the heat sensor on this little board is actually empty, so there really isn't a heat sensor. So I guess take that for what it's worth. So with this setup, we're not going to have a hard drive in this system. We're actually going to install the OS onto a USB jump drive. We're going to use the CD-ROM just for the install, and then once it is installed, we'll remove the CD-ROM so there won't be any power leached or anything like that. It'll just be the system running with the USB drive as its hard drive.
Now I did in fact lose the screw that holds that in place, so I found one that's a little bit smaller, but will get the job done. Now this here looks like a little floppy cable, but it actually is the header for the USB as well as the audio and the power button. So we'll go ahead and install that because it's actually difficult to install once the power supply is in. Alright, next we'll start working on installing the CPU. The CPU actually has two little nubbies that correspond with the socket, so you can't really put it in wrong, and if you do, the latch will either not close or actually break. So you guys shouldn't have trouble lining that up.
So guys, I do have this cleaner stuff that it's from Arctic Silver. I bought it a long time ago. I still have it. Part 1 is the cleaner, which I've used, and part 2 is a prepper. I think it mostly just gets any oils from your fingers or anything like that off of it. So I have a paper towel here. Just wrap it around my, just kind of wrap it around my finger. And put a little droplet on there. Nub it in. And look, you can actually see it got, even though it's been cleaned, it got some gunk off of there. So I'm going to do it again because apparently it wasn't as clean as I thought. So, a couple drops. Oh, no, there you go. There you go. That one you can barely even see anything. And I'm also going to do that right on the heatsink right here, so I'll get it nice and cleaned up. So, all right. So now we have to hope there's enough thermal paste left in here. It's Arctic Silver 5. It's my preferred one. I know they make others, and people like other ones better. Like I think OZZ makes a pretty popular one, OCZ, but I use the, oh yeah, there's enough in it. So I just do like the little P dot. I know there's like all different kinds of ways, and this way's better, but that way's not, and that's actually probably too much thermal paste. So I'll take a little bit off. But the P works good. To be honest with you though, I think it depends on what how your heatsink goes on, whether you should use the line or the P. I think if you're going straight down, the P is probably the best. If you get a, like say like an AMD where the latches go over the side and then it pulls it down from one side to the other, I think it might be better to do the line in the center so that it goes this way. Mine actually is kind of a mixture because it goes on an angle, but then once it's on like this, it's even pressure because it has these two hooks here, and then that, I guess it kind of squeezes it that way a little bit. So alright, so the way this heatsink works is it actually fits inside this plastic carrier here, which is also the fan shroud, kind of directs the airflow. It's keyed. I don't know if you guys can see in there. There's a little plastic piece in there, and then there's a notch on here, so it goes only in there that way. I don't know if there's a specific reason why it's keyed that way. Maybe it's directional. I don't think it should really matter, but whatever. And you just saw me touch this, so I'm gonna have to, I'll clean it again. I know this is kind of silly considering the fact that I'm pretty sure this is PCI Express 1.0. I don't think it can. I think it would be a bottleneck to the PCI Express slot. Would be a bottleneck to the gigabit, 10 gigabit connection if I were to use that. So I don't know. I know you guys couldn't really see that, but the way this sits down on here is it goes in on an angle like this, and it slides across. So it pulls the P, I guess is if you want to call it, pulls the thermal paste back this way, and then as you tighten it, it pushes it back that way. So it's kind of a, I don't know, like a seesaw method almost. So it should, if I put the P in the center, there should be plenty to lock it in correctly or cover it evenly with thermal paste, or as evenly as possible.
Alright guys, next we're going to go ahead and slap that RAM in there. 3 gigabytes of Samsung DDR2 running at 555 megahertz a second. The BIOS is telling me that this is actually running at 667 megahertz, so take your choice. After we slap this RAM in there, we're going to go ahead and get the network card in. This is a dual gigabit network card. Does not support link aggregation, although the kernel does in Linux, but this card itself does not out of the box. But we're not going to be using it that way anyway. We're going to be using it for dual WANs, so we can get more internet speeds, more download speeds with those legal torrents. Right guys? Legal torrents. Next, we're going to put this super ultra powerful magnitude 5000 power supply in. No guys, seriously, it's only 230, 250 watts. To be honest with you, probably get away with 100 watt in this machine, as there's no hard drive, no CD-ROM, and we're never going to max out the CPUs. So this power supply, even though it's snapped in, actually has 4 screws that go in the back to hold it in. So we'll go ahead and put those in. And that's pretty much it for the build of the system. I mean, that's simple guys, and everything's clean and dust free.
So power supply's in, it's all hooked up, RAM's in, our little 4-pin connector's hooked up, our front port's hooked up. We're all set here, fans plugged in, network card's in, I put the jump drive in. I have the CD-ROM here. I put a front plate cover here in the front. So you guys, I'll turn it so you guys can see that. I just put a cover in to cover the port for the CD-ROM because I'm not going to be using a CD-ROM, just only to install it, and then that's it. So I have to get a SATA cable. Alright guys, as you can see here, the system up and running. I got a gigabit switch on top there. I got my Comcast modem hooked up to WAN port 1. The second WAN port actually goes up into a router that I have pulling Wi-Fi off one of the neighbors. And as you can hear, it's really, really quiet. Alright guys, I really hope you liked this video. If you did, hit that like button, share it with your friends. If you didn't like the video, hit the dislike button and let me know why down in the comments. I have to do this build a few more times, and I'm going to give one of them away to a YouTube subscriber. So if you want a chance to get one of these machines, subscribe. Also, I'm going to be doing a follow-up video on exactly how to use and set up pfSense. So if you want to check out that, you can also subscribe and follow me on Twitter, because that's where I'm going to be posting when the next video is coming out.